What the creators of American Idol had in store for the judges on that particular day would go down in television history. It was just another day in the studio where the show was produced. A show that is unlike any other. The setup. Not only does American Idol manage to pull off some great events each season, but none of them are quite as memorable as the prank that they had prepared for Carrie Underwood, Bryan, and Lionel Richie. The producers of the show, who are infamous for their fun pranks, had been pondering ways to surprise the three judges, and they came up with a scheme that incorporated James Brown, who is widely considered to be one of the most iconic people in the history of music. Of course, not in the conventional sense. Rather, it is more of a scare that sends chills down your spine. The producers intended to bring in an actor who would be dressed up as James Brown, the man who is considered to be the godfather of soul. This person would be expected to recreate Brown's wild, expressive gestures and flamboyant manner, which helped him become a music icon. This, however, would not be a straightforward mimicry. Rather, it would be a scare moment, which would be a surprise that would attempt to determine how calm and composed these judges could remain in a high-pressure environment. They were going to be brought in for a special segment on the set, according to the plan. They would be informed that they were going to meet an incredible surprise guest, and that they should get themselves ready for a unique performance during their time together. Naturally, what they were unaware of was the fact that the producers were planning a prank that would utterly take them by surprise throughout the situation. On the day in question, Carrie, Luke, and Lionel arrived on set in the same manner as any other day. During the time that they were getting ready for another edition of the show, they were analyzing the performances of the participants and talking about possible guest stars. In spite of the fact that the atmosphere was lighthearted, they were unaware that the producers intended to transform this ordinary day into a hilarious entertainment show. Just as they were taking their seats on the panel of judges, a producer approached them and presented them with a mysterious message. Excitement was palpable as the producer announced, "Guys, we have something truly special for you today," and he was beaming with joy. A legend is about to come into your life. Be prepared for a performance that will be unlike any other. There was a gleam in Carrie. She asked, "A legend?" while leaning towards Luke and Lionel. "A legend? Who might it be, in your opinion? Should we expect a major surprise visit, such as Beyoncé or Adele, for example?" Luke was more suspicious, and he was prepared for some kind of sophisticated trick to be played on him. "Wait, you guys wouldn't prank us, would you?" he inquired with a smirk on his face. Keeping his reputation as a gentleman, Lionel simply smiled and responded, "I have no doubt that it is going to be fantastic. Let us simply take pleasure in the present moment." The judges were brought out onto the stage by the producers, who were going to great lengths to maintain their composure. Already humming with excitement was the audience, who had been in on the hoax for its entirety. They had been informed of what was going to happen, and they couldn't wait to witness how the judges interacted with the information. The spotlight was directed towards the middle of the stage, and the lights were turned down to a lower level. The music started off with the unmistakable thump of a funk rhythm, which was a powerful, funky bass line that seemed to replicate the sound of James Brown's famed stage presence. While the stage was engulfed in smoke, the judges exchanged bewildered glances as the shape of a man dressed in a shiny, exaggerated rendition of James Brown's stage attire emerged. The silhouette was unmistakable. It was with all the swagger that James Brown himself had acquired that the figure approached the judges in a leisurely and deliberate manner, strutting and dancing. The music became more intense, and the imitation of James Brown started spinning and twirling with an intensity that was beyond comprehension. His dances were ridiculous, and his exuberance was contagious. The man's voice, on the other hand, was much more impressive. "Good God, and get up off of that thing," were both yelled out by a voice that was so loud and booming that it was over the top. That would be James Brown, if James Brown had been summoned from the afterlife to provide a performance that might be described as truly soul-shaking. As she was unable to suppress her surprise, Carrie let out a gasp. She yelled, What is happening right now? While giggling nervously as the actor danced up to the table, ever the Joker laughed out loud, but appeared to be a little taken aback by the situation. I knew you guys were going to do something weird, but this is next level. The words came out of his mouth as James jerked and snapped his fingers in his way. He was barely able to keep it together. Lionel Richie, on the other hand, had the most impressive response of all. As the man known as the Godfather of Soul approached him, Lionel stood up and put his hands over his face in a mocking manner, muttering, "No way." Then, with a great smile on his face, he said, "No way." At that moment, the impersonation of James Brown leaned over the table where the judges were sitting and yelled, "Are you ready to have some fun?" At that moment, the judges were swept up in a maelstrom of song and performance, and the entire studio audience exploded into applause. But this is when things took an even more bizarre turn. The unexpected arrival of James Brown on stage was not the only element that added a twist to the prank. That was also the manner in which the imposter engaged with the judges. He pretended to fall spectacularly, only to bounce back to life, and he began pointing directly at Lionel, Luke, and Carrie, coming dangerously close to them, as if he were going to break into a wild good foot dance. The actor began to emulate James Brown's famed antics that he had used in the past. The surprise continued to come, and all of a sudden, the imposter got down on his knees and let out a high-pitched scream, imitating one of James Brown's characteristic falsetto notes. At this point, the judges were experiencing uncontrollable laughter, while also displaying a look of little bewilderment. There was laughter, shock, and tears among the responses. Carrie was unable to contain her laughter. She suddenly screamed out, "Oh my gosh," while clenching her stomach. "This is the best thing that's ever happened to me." During the time that the impersonator was getting closer to her, she started to imitate his exaggerated dancing motions while simultaneously doubling over with laughter. It was almost as if Luke was crying. "It's ridiculous how you guys are." Not this. I was under the impression that we were going to meet a very important person. As the performer continued to spin around and strike a theatrical position in front of him, his speech began to trail off. It goes without saying that Lionel was the most composed of the group, yet even he struggled to maintain his composure. The James Brown imposter started yelling, "I feel good," as he was performing. The expression on Lionel's face was one of awe and shock at the same time. He screamed, "This is outrageous," when he finally let go of his stately demeanor during the conversation. "I really cannot believe this. In my day, I've witnessed a lot of things, but this one takes the cake." It was at that point that the actor executed his final signature action, which is the well-known James Brown cape removal. While he was dancing towards the judges with an exaggerated flair, the producers in the control room were aware that it was time to disclose the prank that he had been playing. "Ladies and gentlemen, it's a prank." The music abruptly stopped playing, and a voice that was extremely loud and booming announced the news. "The creators of American Idol have just pulled a trick on you. Have you heard?" As soon as the actor removed his wig and revealed that he was a professional impersonator, the audience in the studio exploded in laughter and applause. After a few minutes of standing there, the judges, who were still in a state of disbelief, suddenly broke out into a mixture of laughter and groans. Lionel was still laughing while giving the imposter a thumbs up. Carrie was wiping tears from her eyes. Luke couldn't stop shaking his head in bewilderment, and Lionel was still laughing. Carrie exclaimed, "That was the best surprise of my life," while she continued to chuckle as she spoke. Luke said, "I'm not going to lie, that was pure gold." He did so while shaking his head confidently. Lionel showed his admiration by shaking his head and saying, "Well played." What a remarkable achievement that was. The producers had accomplished their goal. They had pulled off a prank that was not only humorous, but also shocking and unforgettable. And it would leave the judges of American Idol giggling for many seasons to come. In conclusion, a moment that will go down in history. These pranks involving Carrie Underwood, Bryan, and Lionel Richie would go down in history as one of the most memorable ones ever played on live television. Pranks are a fixture in the realm of live television, and they are used to create unique moments. Not only had the producers managed to catch the genuine reactions of the judges, but they had also managed to successfully create a moment of pure hilarity that would be remembered for years to come. And what about the 3 panels of judges? There is a good chance that they would never look at a surprise guest on American Idol in the same way again, because you never know when James Brown might come up and steal the show.